I'm now joined by Issa, who is the Director General and CEO of the Micheal Imodu National Institute for Labor Studies. Good to see you and thanks for your time. I think let's situate it. The last or the present minimum wage, we understand, is due. I think it was effective 2018. Should elapse this year?
Yeah, precisely. Well, it's quite some time now, so like good to see you. And you look like somebody who lives more than minimum wage.
Well,
anyway,
good to see you too.
Good.
So the minimum wage, it has a 5-year span. And listening to that report by Ben Gashuri, you could see how much of an a decline the minimum wage has been since 1960. So now let's talk about the present minimum wage, which is due for a review. It's a better place for us to start this conversation.
Well, I think, but before then, let me also, build on Nashiru's background report. I mean, from the report, it is clear that we have a long road to national minimum wage. I mean, I'm happy that you pointed out we've come a long way. I mean, there have been desire for wage increases, but that's quite different from national minimum wage. Of course, the old regional government, Western regional government started it in 1950s. But the national minimum wage, as we are talking of today, came into being in 1981, so that's under the leadership of the first president of Nigeria Labour Congress, Alhaji Hassan Sumano, who's still very well alive, and of course under President Shehu Shagari. So we can talk of 42 or 43 years of struggle for minimum wage, and this one that we're about to go into is actually the 60th national minimum wage. First 1981, the second one 1990. 1981 was about 125 naira, and that was about $250 because naira had value. I mean, there was also Nigeria economy that was strong. Then in 1990, it was increased to 250. Then year 2000, we had the raise to 5,500 naira. That's for the national minimum. And there, Comrade Adams Oshomole did very, very creative leadership he offered. And he insisted that the federal should pay more than the national minimum. So the federal was paying 7,500. And even some states, like Bayelsa, Rivers, Lagos, 6,500. Then, of course, Jonathan came in, and with the demand of labor, as usual, it has always been driven by the labor movement. It was increased to 18,000 in 2011. And then President Muhammad Buhari, after the struggle, also raised it to 30,000, which is the subsisting, current minimum wage of 30,000. So,
and it expires soon.
And it's 5-year cycle. Yeah, ought to expire, this year effectively. But another quick takeaway I want to put in.
Sorry to cut you, because we really don't have the time.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we need to quickly dig in deep.
To the rating, yeah.
Yes, because looking at the inflation, the spiraling inflation rate in Nigeria at the moment, and we're talking about 30,000 naira, even though some of your colleagues have started, because one's a labor man, is also a labor man. So your colleagues are advocating for about 200,000 naira. We've seen that also. You also saw the report by Omar Bazway there about the dollar, which has actually, the naira plummeting against the dollar. So, what should be an ideal minimum wage if you were to put on your labor thinking cap?
Yeah, the ideal national minimum wage will come out of ideal negotiating process, which has been put in place now. And it's quite commendable that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration has just inaugurated, just yesterday, the new national minimum wage. And as you said, tripartite, which means inclusive, made up of employers of labor, organized labor represented by both the NSC and the TUC, and of course the employers of labor. I mean, NECA, of course, you have the federal government. You also have the state governors. Don't forget it's national minimum wage. So this will also, governors have to be taken up on board. And chaired by the very tested former head of service, Alhaji Bukaraji. And of course, you also have the secretary of the committee. It's important to know this, that it's all inclusive, 37%.
Still, it still doesn't actually paint a picture of where we're headed.
No, but the issue is there is that the beauty of that inclusiveness is that all the numbers will be traded. First we need to look at the cost of living. We need to look at inflation. We need to know what it means for the working men and women. But there's a consensus now that what we have today are not workers, but working poor. Working poor.
So it brings us to asking your idea, or perhaps a range, because the 30,000 naira, as it were, really can't take anyone anywhere.
In fact, when we
at the moment,
completely. When we negotiated the 30,000 minimum wage, it was almost about $100, given the exchange rate that was stable. Today is less than $45, depending on what exchange rate you use. I was just looking at the numbers now. The assumption based on this budget was supposed to be 750 naira per dollar for exchange rate. Now we're talking of 1,500. What has not been said is implication for inflation. And the food inflation is almost rooftop now, almost close to 30% on top. Official inflation was about 28%.
So in other words, with this, the government should also apply speed, knowing for what the people are suffering. So in applying speed, this present minimum wage should expire in about March.
Yeah.
How soon do you expect them to quickly sit and come up with something that is befitting of the Nigerian worker?
Honestly speaking, if you ask me, it ought to have been done this year. Because don't forget that the agreement reached with the federal government with organized labor, after that suspended the strike following the removal of subsidy. It was our first President Bola Ahmed Tinubu offered 35,000 for all federal employees, but also said immediately, the second point was to set up immediately this very committee, tripartite committee, to look at the minimum wage was about to expire. So it ought to have been by November. Now we're in January. So everybody agreed at the inaugural meeting that we need to conclude on time.
So, it's not out of place by the labor leaders who are suggesting 200,000 naira. It's not out of place.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether they will be talking in terms of the numbers.
And that was then.
Yeah,
so
that was
it might be beyond that now.
Yeah, precisely. But what I'm trying to say, I don't think we need to preempt the discussions. What will be clear is that issues will be negotiated through collective bargaining. Don't forget that, I've told you, we have total collapse of wages in this country. Labor has been terribly undervalued. When you look at the pay of a worker, hardly takes him home. Hardly even fits him, and not talk of his dependents. But it also depends on ability to pay. Don't forget that private sector have to pay. So it also has to do with productivity, the state of the economy.
I really hope,
and that's why we need rigorous negotiations to achieve that. And the Vice President Shetima pointed out very well.
I really hope we can bring you back again.
No,
but again, before you leave quickly, if we can do this in 20 seconds, tell us what the Micheal Imodu National Institute of Labour Studies is about.
Well, it's self-explained. It's the only national institute that has a mandate to promote labour education, also get data on labour market issues. And we've been doing this for the past 41 years. It was established in 1983 and named after number one labor man. The only chief market, Imodu.
Comrade Aremo, Director General and CEO of Micheal Imodu National Institute for Labour Studies. Many thanks for your time.
Extremely.
And we appreciate you, and we do hope to find you here in the studios.